Hi everyone, welcome to week 3 of our Comp 2 class. This week is going to focus on rhetorical situations and peer review. By now, you should have a pretty good idea of how you are going to approach writing Project 1. This week, you're going to spend some time thinking about how an audience may view your work and the essay you selected from the reading bank. You will also get direct audience feedback during the peer review process, and you will provide direct audience feedback for 2 of your peers. You should use the peer review to begin to understand how others view your work and to compare your work with that of your peers. If this is your first time doing a peer review, especially if it's an online peer review, I have a few suggestions for you. First, this is your paper, and ultimately all decisions, all editorial control goes back to you. It'll be your job to decide which suggestions of your peers that you would like to make, what revisions are worth it that fit your vision of the paper, and which do not. If a peer suggests an edit or a revision that you don't agree with, you are not obligated to make that change. However, you do want to go in with an open mind, be open to suggestions that might improve your paper. As you are giving feedback, make sure to be polite in your critiques. Remember that you are critiquing the writing and not the writer. You should begin by presenting positive comments and then address any weaknesses in a constructive way. And remember to consider public consensus. If 5 out of 5 people thought that your paper was good, then you can probably trust that, you're headed in the right direction. There may be some things about your paper you need to fix, but if all of your peer reviewers say like, yeah, your paper's looking pretty good, then you can probably trust that feedback. However, if, let's say, 3 out of 5 people were confused and 2 thought that it was good, that should give you an indication that there may be some aspects of your paper that are confusing and that need to be clarified in some way. Learning how to give and accept peer feedback is vital for your future academic success. Comp 2 is potentially the last class many of you will take that provides direct instructor feedback on drafts, which you'll receive that from me on your final draft of your paper, and you'll have a chance to revise your first couple of papers if you would like. In most of your future classes, you will be assigned an essay, told how to format it, what citation style to use. You'll be given a due date, and that might be it. Your professor may give you very little input on how to write the paper. They may not continually remind you when the essay is due. They will more or less expect that you know how to write a good essay. By practicing peer review now, when we have sort of this built-in safety net, you are preparing yourself for when the training wheels come off and you are left to do a lot of these things on your own. So try to take advantage of this practice that we're doing. Also, don't forget to keep up with your weekly writing assignments and discussion board entries. These are relatively short and straightforward. They aren't worth a ton of points, but collectively, those points do add up. It would be a shame if you worked really hard on your papers just to find out that you've hurt your grade in the class by not completing enough of the weekly assignments. As always, feel free to email me if you have any questions or concerns, you want me to take a look at something. Also, you can use the discussion board as a way to interact with your classmates, see how they're feeling, see if they have feedback on anything. There are plenty of people available to you to help you out. So now let's take a look at the tasks you're going to be completing. The first one is doing some readings from the Norton Field Guide. You'll see that those are listed here for you. This first entry here, this is essentially the required reading. And we have a supplemental reading selection here for you as well that you may also find useful. Task 2 is going to be examining your rhetorical situation. Now that you have a basic plan for your essay, you need to consider how your rhetorical situation differs from that of the author you've selected. You should read chapters 5 through 9, rhetorical situations, in the field guide, and wouldn't be a bad idea for you to reread or at least skim the text that you have selected from the reading bank. And after reading both things, open a Word doc and write an analysis of the rhetorical situations for both your paper and the essay you selected, ensuring that you consider each element that makes up a rhetorical situation. You will find the elements of rhetorical situation on page 54 of the field guide. For both your work and the author's work, number your answers and respond to the following prompts. What is the social and historical rhetorical situation for you and the author? In other words, how does your rhetorical situation within this society and within this time, the United States in the 2020s, differ from the rhetorical situation the author faced within their society and time? What makes each of you distinct and different writers? Number 2, write an audience analysis for each piece by responding to the questions listed under the Thinking About Audience header on pages 59 and 60 in your field guide. And finally, thinking back on last week's reading from the field guide, chapter 40, comparing and contrasting, chapter 42 on describing, chapter 45 on narrating, what strategies made your selected essay a successful piece of writing? What writing strategies should you use to make your essay effective? For task 3, you should review a sample essay. Take a moment and go review 1 or 2 of the example Writing Project 1 essays that are posted in the Writing Projects and Rubrics section on Blackboard. Take note of how the author told their story or stories and connected that to the opinions of the author from our textbook. Task 4, planning your draft. Before you begin writing your draft, you should consider some points you will need to address as you construct your essay. After reviewing your previous pre-writing activities, write out responses to the following questions in a Word doc. First of all, similarities. What do the author and I agree on, even if it is only a slight agreement? How are my experiences and the author's experiences related? On which points do I agree and disagree with the author? How has the author's writing changed or expanded my thinking on this topic? Next, differences. What do the author and I disagree on, even if it's only a slight disagreement? How are my experiences and the author's experiences different? Which points do I vehemently disagree with, and what makes me feel strongly about this particular point? Next, experiences. What specific life experiences will I discuss in comparison with the author's opinions and experiences? And how can I make my stories about these experiences interesting to my readers? Next, the opening. How can I write my opening sentence to catch my reader's attention? What tends to get my attention when I read an essay or an article? What argument will I make in my thesis statement? And remember that your thesis statement should not be a question about the author's views on this topic. For supporting paragraphs, how will I introduce the author's material at the beginning of each supporting paragraph? How will I transition from describing the author's stance to comparing and contrasting that stance with my own? And how can I use the skills I learned in English 111, or 1100, I should say, in the narrative assignment, specifically relating to description, dialogue, and characterization, to bring my experiences to life for my readers? And then finally, what type of ending do I want to leave with my readers? Task 5 is reviewing the Writing Project 1 assignment sheet. You'll be drafting your project this week, but before you begin, you should definitely revisit the assignment sheet just to make sure that you are meeting all of the essay requirements. If you find that you're confused about anything, please contact me so that I can help you out before you get too far along in the process. Task 6, formatting your paper in MLA style. Here is an example of the first page of a paper in MLA. You'll also find some information here about where you can find examples and explanations of MLA style. We have a video here as well explaining MLA format. Task 7, reviewing the Columbus State Library's MLA citation guides. If you click on this, it will take you to some of our library's resources on MLA. You may find those helpful. And then task 8, drafting your essay. After you've done all the things that we've already discussed, you should be in a pretty good place to write your draft of Writing Project 1. It needs to be a minimum of 1,000 words. It needs to have a works cited page and in-text citations following the examples in Chapter 54 on MLA style. Be certain to use the resources available to you. There's lots of different things that you can use to help you with this. Take a look at your pre-writing, all of your process work, read through the example essays, reread the assignment prompt, etc. Once you are confident you know what to do, open a word processing document and start writing. A lot of tasks this week, but you are only actually submitting the writing that you completed for tasks 2 and 4. So you should begin drafting your essay this week, but you won't be like turning in the final draft this week. You'll be submitting a draft of your paper to the discussion board for peer review. So the things that you're submitting directly to me are all the writing you did for tasks 2 and 4. Task 9 is posting to the discussion board. This is going to be a peer review activity. Your first post is due by 11:59 on Thursday. All you need to do for that is to post a draft of your paper to the discussion board. And in the post itself, you can indicate things that you would like feedback on, things that you want your peers to pay attention to, any sort of feedback that you're looking for, things like that. Your second post is due by 11:59 on Saturday. For this, you should read and comment on at least 2 other papers posted by your peers. For each paper, I'd like you to answer the following questions. What do you like about the author's writing? Highlight 2 areas where they have particularly good writing. Is there anything confusing or hard to read about the author's writing? Highlight 2 areas where they might go back and edit or revise something. Look for the author's in-text citations and works cited page. Do they have both? And I'd like you to comment on their use of proper MLA citations. I don't expect any of you to be experts on MLA, but if you see any glaring errors in MLA, it would be good for you to point those out to your peers. And then reply to any specific questions the author posted with the rough draft. This is a fairly involved process. It'll probably take you a fair amount of time to read through both papers and thoughtfully address the questions and prompts that I have here. So make sure that you set aside plenty of time to do this. You don't want to rush. You want to make sure that you are giving the kind of feedback that you would hope to receive from your peers in return. That is all for this week. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. If you need help with anything, let me know. I would be happy to help you out.